remember, I've been kind of throwing out risk and protective factors by the developers, Hawkins and Catalano. When I entered into the field of prevention, that was kind of my staple right there. Eliminating risk factors in communities and increasing the protective factors in community. And I continue, and the work that you see that is done, even if it's infused without speaking about the risk and protective factors, it points to that. Let me tell you why. Our research that I talked to you about finding out about, it's about what is the risk that's going on. What puts a young person at risk of using or misusing substance abuse? What are those things? Hawkins and Catalano came up with a wonderful list of these are all the risk factors, and they broke those down by domain. So all of this kind of comes together. So all the research was put together to give us a nice handle of not just going out and practicing and playing with this work, but really having it point to something that's going to make a difference. So the risk factors are associated with the health and risk behaviors in young people, right? And so I want you, and I will share with you the list, which I should have incorporated here, but I'll make sure that I get that to you. That's a promise. The risk and protective factors. So you have the list of risk factors like access to drugs, access to alcohol, tobacco, or other drugs. That's a risk factor. How does that walk itself out? That means that I can go from corner to corner, from store to store, and I can purchase, and I'm underage. That's a risk factor for me in my community. Pro-social alcohol behavior means that people that's a risk factor, an example of one of the risk factors. That means that people around me feel that alcohol, tobacco, or drug use is not an issue. So the message that I am hearing is that, my peers are saying it's okay. That's a risk factor. So as we think about those risk factors, we then think about, okay, what are those protective factors? So is it you have positive parental influence, you have communities that are safe, and the environments are safe. There are places for me to go after school. There are activities for me to do. Those are protective factors. So on one end, you have this list of things that put me at risk. There are billboards in my community, risk factor. Again, I have access to it, risk factor. I don't really have the language to say no, risk factor. Can this list be, so those are risk factors, and then the counter is protective factors. I'm reading Yvette's question.